Are you moving from Toronto to Hamilton in 2025? Well, that could be a great move, or it could be a disaster. It really depends on if you buy the right house at the right price, or if you end up inheriting somebody else's problem. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the mistakes that GTA buyers commonly make when moving to Hamilton, the neighborhoods that will actually fit your vibe, and I'm going to give you a simple plan so that you can get the keys without getting completely fleeced. My name is LoPresti. I'm a real estate agent in Hamilton, Ontario, and I work mostly with first-time buyers, and a lot of them are coming from out of town. If you want tips about buying real estate in Hamilton, subscribe to the channel for new videos every week. And if you have any questions about particular properties or any particular neighborhoods, then feel free to reach out to me. My contact info is down in the description. All right, let's stack Hamilton against Toronto on the things that matter. And I'm also going to flag a particular tax detail that most Toronto movers aren't aware of. Let's start with the big picture, the one that you probably care the most about, which is the price. In Hamilton, your dollar stretches a lot further than in Toronto. For less money, you're getting a lot more house. You get a much bigger yard, or just a yard in general. I don't think those are too common in Toronto these days. You get yourself a garage, and you get yourself room to breathe. Then there's also just the general vibes and the pacing. Pace is going to be a lot slower in Hamilton. There's a lot of small shops, cafes, and trails nearby. There's also a little bit of grit, and you can decide if that's a pro or a con for you. Now, the key difference when it comes to buying real estate in Hamilton versus Toronto is that Toronto has two land transfer taxes. There's the provincial, and they also have a municipal one. In Hamilton, you only have to pay the provincial. That translates to thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars that you're saving. Hamilton also has a lot of older homes. This could be both a good or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. These older homes have a lot more charm, but they also tend to have a lot more problems. A lot of their systems like the electrical or the furnace might need to be updated, so that's an extra cost that you're going to have to take on if you do end up buying one of those. And they're also more prone to having some foundation issues just because they've been around for a lot longer. They've weathered a lot more storms, literally. It's not a complete deal breaker. Just make sure if you are buying something, you put in an inspection condition so you can check all the systems fully so that you know what you're getting yourself into. All right, next is probably going to be helpful to break down a few of the different neighborhoods that Hamilton has because they do vary quite a bit depending on where you're looking. First, you got the Kirkendall neighborhood, which is around where Locke Street is located. This is going to be a very walkable area with a lot of local shops. This is an area with a lot of those older century homes as well, but they're usually very well maintained and a lot of them have been very tastefully renovated. This is a good neighborhood for people who want a relatively quiet area that's walkable, has plenty of cafes, bars, and local shops. This is one of the nicer neighborhoods in Hamilton's downtown area, and I recommend you just go take a walk through this area. It's pretty nice. Just remember to watch out when you're looking at any older homes. Watch out for things like knob and tube wiring, moisture in the basement, and again, a home inspection will cover all that, but just make sure that you're aware that that is a problem that you might run into. Next, we have the Westdale and Ainsley Wood neighborhoods. These areas are popular for student rentals just because of their proximity to McMaster University, so that is something you're going to want to keep in mind. It can sometimes get a little rowdy depending on the season. So if that doesn't seem like something that is appealing to you, then you might want to avoid this area, or at least if you do want to buy in this area, buy a little bit further from the university. Similar to Locke Street, this is also a fairly walkable area. Westdale Village in particular has a lot of coffee shops and little restaurants there, so it's a pretty nice area to be. It's also got easy 403 access. Next, we have Corktown, which is south of the downtown core, and because there's a lot of condos in this area, it might be more your speed if you're used to that Toronto lifestyle, and that's something that you want to maintain. It's in a relatively central area, so if you need to be doing any sort of commuting anywhere in the city, this will be a pretty good spot. Now, if you want a more suburban area, then the Hamilton Mountain is going to be for you. Most of the areas on the Hamilton Mountain are relatively easy commutes if you're going to Toronto for work or anywhere in that area. And if you like having a big lot with tons of space, then this is going to be more your style. There's a lot of older bungalows in this area. It's been pretty popular with investors in recent years. A lot of flippers have been going in there and taking these homes and renovating them, fixing them up. Some of them have been turned into duplexes, but there's a lot of those style of properties. So if that's something that you're interested in, then the Hamilton Mountain's for you. Now, if you start heading east, you're going to reach the Stony Creek neighborhood. This area has seen a lot of development in recent years. It has a lot more newer builds and townhouses. It's also right near the waterfront. You have Confederation Park just right there, so it's a pretty good spot for people who like nature and like going for walks near the water. Now, if your budget's a little bit higher and you're a nature lover, then you're going to want to check out Dundas. Dundas feels like it's an entirely different city of its own. If you prefer that more small town feel surrounded by nature, then this is going to be the perfect spot for you. Now, if your budget's a lot higher and you just want a nice, safe suburban area that's also really quiet, then you're going to want to check out Ancaster. This is the cream of the crop. when it comes to Hamilton real estate. Depending on what you're looking for, you can find townhouses or full-on mansions. It's a pretty versatile area, and it's going to be really safe regardless of where you choose. So when it comes to choosing which neighborhood that you're going to actually live in, especially if you're coming from out of town, it probably makes sense to visit before you actually buy something, obviously. But what I recommend is choose 2 to 3 neighborhoods when you do come to visit, ones that are relatively in different areas so that you can kind of get a feel for each one, and try to visit them at different times of day as well. I like to recommend people visit during the day when rush hour would be happening, and then also come back during nighttime and see sort of if you'd be comfortable actually living on that street. And if you're still going to be commuting back to the GTA, make sure that you actually check your commute times at different times of day as well, and account for traffic in that, because sometimes Toronto traffic, if I'm driving to Toronto from Ancaster, it can take 3 hours. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that. Now, if you're buying a home in Hamilton, it's your first time and you're not really sure what's going on, I put together a free guide just for first-time homebuyers. It's down in the description. It'll just walk you through the entire process when it comes to buying your first home. So if you're interested, go check that out. All right, now let's go into the key differences between Hamilton and Toronto's real estate markets and some of the mistakes that Toronto buyers make when they come here. One of the mistakes that I see Toronto buyers making is using their Toronto prices that they're used to as their anchor when they're looking at Hamilton real estate. So for example, you might see a home that, based on what you could get for the same money in Toronto, seems like it's a really good price, but in reality it is still overpriced compared to Hamilton's market. So the solution is to base your offer off of recent sold homes in that same neighborhood. Find 3 to 5 comparable sales that are relatively similar to the one that you're thinking of offering on, and then use that to give you a rough idea of what the home is actually worth. This is how you avoid overpaying. Another thing is treating condos in Hamilton the same as you would larger buildings in Toronto. You want to make sure that you always have a lawyer reading the status certificate whenever you're purchasing a condo, because some of these smaller buildings might not budget money for extra repairs the same way one of the bigger buildings would. So you want to make sure that you have your lawyer going over all of that so that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you're buying a condo. Now, another mistake I see is amongst people who are planning on doing a basement suite or any type of renovation to try to get some extra income. You want to make sure that you're verifying Hamilton's specific zoning bylaws, because they're not the same as Toronto. So you don't want to come here, buy a property, and assume everything's going to be okay, and then once you've closed on it, then figure out that you can't actually do what you were planning on doing. I actually recently had a guy reach out to me who had already bought something, and he wanted to do a duplex conversion, but he didn't check the zoning bylaws, and he realized after the fact that he couldn't actually do what he wanted to do. One thing that you can also do if you're thinking of buying a house is you can book a showing before you've put an offer in, and bring a contractor through with you and have them kind of give you an opinion on what they think you can or can't do based on what your plan is. All right, so to sum it up, if you're used to living in a condo in Toronto and you come here and you're now living in a detached home, that's obviously a great step up, but it also can lead to a bunch of different problems, especially if that home is a little bit on the older side. So one of the things I always recommend, put in a home inspection condition. If you are buying a condo, check the status certificate, and don't assume that Toronto rules apply the same here, because they don't. And then if you're coming to visit to check out neighborhoods, pick a few and visit them at different times during the day. The only neighborhoods that I would really recommend you to avoid are the industrial sector, just because they're not really the safest, and they're also not the nicest either. It's not really great to walk out your front door and be looking right at a factory. And the air quality isn't the greatest either. And if you have any questions about moving to Hamilton, whether it's a specific neighborhood or just moving to Hamilton in general, you can feel free to reach out to me at any point. My contact info is down in the description. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.